Thanks so much. But
Sure.
like you kind of mentioned like you're a one-man team. So, but like how do you like manage all those like those stuff like this workload? Yeah.
Okay, so that's tech transfer. That's I'm a one man team out of new venture development, and so that we'll get there. But the IBE hub encompasses all of this, and so there's a tech transfer. So that's Jeff Jackson's division. So again, developing intellectual property, and then helping those faculty members or students license on the back end.
Hmm.
And then business engagement is Nathan Westrup out of his UC Santa Cruz. So he goes out to like NVIDIA and will schmooze with the upper management from NVIDIA and try
Hmm.
and get engagement from NVIDIA or donations or that type of support from those types of companies. Then you have industry alliances. So that would be Andrea Pesci. She ends up helping arrange for sponsored research projects, a lot of outreach marketing. So she's coordinating our booth at Bio down in San Diego at the beginning of June. But one of the things she's doing is showcasing all the early stage technologies and companies, spin-out companies that we have to help promote them and as well. So it's basically she's a center point for doing that and helps coordinate sponsored research projects and those
Hmm.
contracts between companies like Google, Nvidia, all that, she into the university and for those companies too. And
I
then
see.
there's new venture development. So I was recently onboarded. But what I do or what we do out of new venture development is that we're trying to put support structures in place for helping give guidance to faculty members and students
Hmm.
on everything from product market fit to as how to get dilutive and non-dilutive funding in place, how to spin out a company, how to do team development, how to do community engagement, those types of things, so that you can ensure the success of your technology. So it comes down to de-risk, de-risk, de-risk. All right.
I see. I see.
To give you, I'm not telling you you should buy this. Don't get me wrong. I just got a notice from the library that an electronic version of the textbook is available online. Sorry, is going to be acquired by the university, but for Santa Cruz. But so my colleagues and I wrote the textbook on product development. So it's basically it's a combination of StageGate and Stanford by Design, except then we got rid of all the academic fluff and streamlined it so it was actually practical. So it's
Hmm.
like, okay, how do you de-risk and validate the concept of your technology that you have before you even start developing it?
I
And
see.
so and so my background is actually to give you my background. I'm ex-Navy. I went to school. My degrees are in biomedical engineering and material science and engineering. I worked as a manufacturing process engineer at a spinal implant company. I then built and ran a technology incubator. Ran that for 6 years. Worked with over 23 different companies. And it ended up kind of becoming a generalist because of that, even though the incubator was supposed to initially be biotech oriented.
Hmm.
And from there, ended up going off and doing getting involved with a few early stage companies to do product development as well as process improvement. So I'm very good with scalability of technologies, where I've grown those companies and to get them to the next stage. And then I taught entrepreneurial bioengineering for Temple University for 4 years.
I
So
see. I see.
the reason why they brought me on is I've actually gone through everything an early stage technology should go through. So
Hmm.
and even with the textbook, my team then validated the textbook, and we have our own technology based off of that validation. So and so that's what it comes down to is it's a way of saying having teams come to me and I will find the resources, the mentors, like we're putting together mentorship programs. So I can't be everything, so and I shouldn't be, and
Hmm.
having an N of one is no good for anybody. Having an N of 10 or an N of 100 is much more important. So getting those mentors in place, getting those giving you the guidance, and getting those recurrent structures in place
Hmm.
are the important. So that's that's
I
that's
see. I see. Well, that's a lot of information, but yeah,
you saw my schedule and I'm already at a point where like like if you saw my calendar, it would make you cry.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I
I
guess
really appreciate that. Yeah.
yeah, and I guess another thing I want to ask is like um so is this thing like a salary? Are you a salary like on for UC Santa Cruz or you just
So
uh
we're pre-accelerator. So the goal
okay
is and the goal is to so academia has a different time scale of reality
yeah
than industry. So the goal is to be able to help the students understand what goes into it,
hmm
as or as well, and help and work with the faculty to relational technology as it gets spun. Sorry, and it's a little choppy. That technology, the relationship with the technology and that spin-out company gets optimized and refined in a way where they're prepped to go to an accelerator, where they
I
are
see
prepped. So, like, I haven't put it up there yet, but I have a data room or deal room structure with instructions that will get posted online. That it will basically, that walks you through how to put a proper data room together. So the
uh-huh
goal my goal is or our goal is to get these technologies to a point where they can actually be companies that can be invested in.
I see so if you guys are a prey accelerator are you guys like when you guys helping those young research team or students within the campus are you guys going to take like a small share of the team or just like just helping them to achieve the things they want to do
It's helping. It's a couple of different things. One of which is, let's say you make a whole bunch of money and you realize how awesome UC Santa Cruz is, and 20 years down the
uh-huh
line, donate a building to the university. Just think of me. That's it.
yeah
That's number one.
yeah
But that's serious. To
yeah
some, it's actually serious. Where
I see
saying, "Hey, look, we're a resource for our students, our alumni, for our faculty, and that's what we are." Okay,
I
so that's
see
one area. And then when it comes to the intellectual property developed, the IP itself is so if grad students and faculty, the intellectual property is owned by the university, and so this is the way it is for every university in the UC system. So basically, of all net royalties,
yeah
in 35% go back to the inventors. So think of it this way: you get your company up and running. Let's say you're a grad student, intellectual property is generated. The UC system owns it, but because they want to see you be successful, so they license that technology to your startup company. 5 years later, you sell your startup company. You make money. You make the bulk of your money off of the sale of the company. But now you're still an inventor, and there's royalties that are generated from that startup company, that licensing agreement, that and still end up going back to you and the university and the UCOP system indefinitely.
I
So
see
it's a way of having it go back into the system continually. So so back when it comes down to legal stuff, we will point you in the direction of different types of law firms, and we will find some ways of like we have a law firm that has a will help a company get incorporated as zero cost. Let me phrase that. You will still have to pay the license, the registration fees for the
hmm
state government, but they
I
will
see
charge you for their services, and there's no catch for having to work with them
I
moving.
see
So they will. So we've arranged for the. That's a great example of one of the services or support services that we've arranged. I'm not here to give you legal advice, but I
hmm
can say, we found a law firm that is qualified to do that and that will help you get incorporated at a bare bones. Like if you're only popping out, shelling out $500 to get incorporated, and
hmm
you have a full C corporation in play, a Delaware C corporation in place with all the rules, with your full operating agreement, that's amazing. So
hmm
usually that can cost anywhere from like 2,500 to $5,000, right?
I
So
see
give you an idea. So like those are the types of things we do, where if it's usually a couple $100 in filing fees between state and federal government. I mean that's not
yeah
which is almost nothing.
I see. I see. Yeah, we have another member just joining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hello. So that's kind of that's where that those are the types of support services. Hi. Hey, how are you doing? Nice to meet you. So yeah, our goal is to make sure that you don't get burned, and we see it as your success is our success. So it's
Mhm.
when it comes to marketing, we're able to say, hey, look at the companies that were spun out of UC Santa Cruz, or that like that. That's huge. You know, we're a support service. We've helped train these brilliant students that
Mhm.
spin out technology that impact the world. That's all.
I see.
That is the value.
I see. So during your time, as a director at UC Santa Cruz, is there any pain point you have, found in this organization, like just helping young researchers in this, in the process?
I mean, so I'm kind of curious. What kind of pain points are you curious about?
Something maybe, like a common pain point you often see that young researchers have, or maybe something like just, as the organization, in general.
Um, it always comes out the first thing for teams for a company to be successful and to be spun out is you guys have to have a good working dynamic with each other. So it comes down to the team. So whenever an early stage company is being invested in, they're investing into the team, not the technology. And the reason for that is if the three of you are getting on great now, and but your corporate structure is not put in place well, or let's say Grace, your one of your parents ends up falling ill, and you're not able to put the time in, or something along those lines, and then you're setting yourself up to fail because like you don't want to have a corporate structure where it's just like, hey, you each own a third of the company. There needs to be a milestone based or ways of getting vested to show that, hey, look, this is how much work I put in, so that there's
Hmm.
not you need to make sure that there's mechanisms put in place or structures put in place so that you get compensated appropriately for the work you put in. So
I see.
that's a very important place, and it's really hard to figure all that out. That's actually where a law firm should help you while you're setting up your operating grid. Okay, so that's one area. Um, the other area is the faculty members, their first job is to be a faculty member.
Hmm.
And so it's not that they shouldn't be involved in a company of their own technology. We want them to be involved, but it's a full-time job. It is a 60 to 70-hour week to be a CEO of a company.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
I
doing that,
see.
yeah, so you need to have somebody that has the dedicated energy and time to be able to do that, because you have to travel around, you have to sell, you have to sell, you have to sell, you have to schmooze, you have to cut deals, you have to there's it's that's another area. The other part is translating. You guys are intelligent people. You are trained in a very specific vernacular due to your specialty. You need to be able to simplify what your technology is so that somebody that does not have the expertise that you have can understand it, and that is not an easy thing to do. So
Yeah.
for example, one of the projects I worked on was the incorporation of transition carbides into oxide matrices. Can any of you? I'm not saying, do any of you know what I even just said?
No, well, I'm gonna put myself. I'm an accounting major, so I'm sorry, I can't really answer that.
That's the root for I said this. So the
Yeah.
point, so what the technology is useful for, and why it's amazing, and what that type of research, we
Hmm.
actually figured out a way of taking carbon nanoparticulates that are highly conductive, and then making them so that we could and incorporating them into ceramics in a way where we can during the manufacturing process. So now you can incorporate nanoscale circuit boards into ceramics during the manufacturing process. And the reason why that's not possible right now is because usually the manufacturing process is so high temperature and high pressure where those materials would break down. So we figured out how to a manufacturing process for incorporating nanoscale circuit boards or circuitry into ceramics during the manufacturing process. That even though it's still a little bit more complicated, it's simpler to understand, right? And I'm guessing all three of you can comprehend where I'm going with that, right? So, and then then the next step is to translate, is simplify that to even more, saying, oh, we just made an alternator that's able to collect, that is that much more efficient.
I
So,
see.
and so there's different degrees of taking the skill sets that you have and simplifying it so that anybody can understand what you've just done.
I see.
That
I
is
see.
hard. It is a lot harder to do because you just spend 3 to 5 years learning your trade and learning very specific terminology and very specific and you're so proud of it and you should be. But at the end of the day, how do you convey that to somebody that does not have your skill set?
I see. Wow.
It's
Wow. Yeah.
Does that help? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Because
How, I'm curious, like, I mean, you said you had like 2 degrees, and then I feel like, do you mostly like specialize in like scaling up the manufacturing and like refining the manufacturing process for like students who are interested in like making their research a product? Or are you more on like the business side of things and like the management and helping like those teams like refine their skills and become more of a business?
Yes. It's
Oh,
not it's,
okay.
it's not an or, it's a yes. So
Okay. Wow. Okay.
so
Yeah. No, I was like, it sounds sort of like you're doing it all. So like,
yeah,
yeah. I
uh,
mean, it's really impressive what you're doing.
it's more for so the scalability portion of it. What I do is I'll teach I teach the team how to actually do the research. So, how do you I'm putting mechanisms in place for teaching people how to do market research to understand the market landscape as well as the different market segments. I teach design for manufacturing and assembly. So, when you're developing a technology in house, so I had great example. There's a faculty member at Santa Cruz. She's amazing. I absolutely love working with her and her team. Well, I give a design for manufacturing assembly course to her and her lab group. And I was like, yeah. So while you're developing your prototype, you should be thinking about the end manufacturing process that for being able to produce. What will it take to produce 1,000 of these a day? And they were like, honestly, seeing everybody in the table, their eyes, they're like, how do we even do that? And I'm like these manufacturing, like in the case of what you're doing lithography, you're doing nanoscale etching, you're doing all the X, Y, and Z. You need that's a research to understand these large scale manufacturing processes that Intel uses, that any of these chip makers are using, so that you can do something analogous, so or develop it in an analogous way, so that you're not reinventing. Yes, if you make one of these things in the lab, it's great, but what does it take to make 1,000 of them in one day, and how can you get there? So there's a broader picture of these techniques and skills and tools and machines, and that aren't necessarily thought about during prototype development. And the whole purpose of that is that when you're doing your iterative design approach, it makes your life easier downstream when you have to transfer to manufacturing. So the goal is you get your proof of concept in place, being like, oh yeah, I can do this. Then your alpha prototype, where you're like, oh, hey, look, it's really ugly, but technically it works. And then you go, all right, multiple iterations of your beta prototype, just like beta testing with the software package, where you're like, oh, I'm gonna give this to my next door neighbor or a lab down the street to be able to see if they can use it. And then you get all the way to get to your minimum viable product. There we go. So something you would actually consider selling to somebody. And once you get to that point, part of the minimal viable product is transferring to manufacturing. And so back to okay, well, so if you want to sell it, you can't just sell one. If it takes you 10 months to make one of these things, then either you need to sell it for a massive amount of money, or you need to figure out a different model around how you're going to generate revenue off that. So whether you can do an internal service, you can sell them for $10 million piece, but you also have to figure out who's going to buy it. And so that's why we've one of the things we're putting on place. So a couple things on campus. So right now we're in the middle of a Lean Launchpad, which is a feeder to the National Science Foundation's I-Corps program in the National I-Corps program. So you only have to do 15 interviews, but it's about customer customer engagement. So, and seeing, okay, who would be the potential customers of this technology, and how do we actually, and what do they actually want? So, to make it even more complex, there's the product you want to sell, and then the product somebody actually wants to buy, and how do you make those, cross the path? So, when you do I'll build it and they will come. Most of the time they don't. So that's what we're trying to do is and so one of the things that we've found, and I know we're being recorded, so I got to be careful when I say this, a lot of faculty members, because they're so brilliant in their own silos, they think that their concept is the best thing since sliced bread, but when you come to early stage technologies and startups, there's always something called a pivot, and it could be a pivot business model, it could be a pivot with the technology development, but that pivot usually comes with that customer engagement and finding out what the user requirements are and what the market requirements are surrounding that technology.
I see.
Okay. And back to all that, the reason why I-Core is so important is having me tell you that is an N of 1, whereas I could, like the Lean Launchpad, now you have an N of 15, and then when you actually do the full I-Core program, you do 100 interviews over 8 weeks, and now you have an N of 100. And what you're doing in there is you identify the different stakeholders within, you go, these are the market segments, and these are the different stakeholders within each market segment. And while we're looking at the stakeholders, these are the people who would actually be using it. Yes, I want to interview them. These are the people that actually decide, yes, I will buy this, and they're the decision makers. And how do you talk to them about what it would take for them to say, yes, I'm going to cut a check. It's a long process.
It is, yeah.
It's okay, but it's okay because it's also your baby, and there's highs and lows, and it gets exciting, and then you're like, oh my god, then somebody just crushed my dreams. It's a horrible relationship, but it's also really fun.
Yeah. So I think another question I want to ask is like I know like all UC have similar innovation hub for our campus. UCSD will have this called I think it was like what Blue Star like for Launchpad. But so a question I want to ask is like, if your researchers, you're a current researcher who are partner or who are working in their innovation hub that like is facing any of difficulties, are you guys helping them to find like collaborating with other UCs or just within the UC Santa Cruz?
Oh no, everywhere. We are our philosophy. I can't speak for other campuses, but our philosophy is like I can work with anybody.
Okay.
As long as you're Santa Cruz, as long as somebody within the startup is affiliated with Santa Cruz. It doesn't matter if you're an alumni or a student, an active student, or faculty, staff. As long as you're one person is affiliated, like there was somebody reached out to me where they were the parent of a student. And they were looking to do market validation for this technology that he and his son had made together, and I put him in touch with the right people to be able to ask those questions to on and off of campus. So it's, to me, again, the university is looking to be a support structure for its flat out. And so it's and you have to go outside of the university and outside of the immediate Santa Cruz area to be a proper resource.
I see.
That's our philosophy. I can't speak for others. So,
are there any like research teams that you're like focused more like particular? Like it sort of sounds like you're focused like more on like the sector of like chemistry, material science, like biomedical engineering. And are you more focused on just like scaling up like chips and tech and like material science? Or do you focus on plastics at all? Or like where do you draw the line of like what sort of tech companies or like tech startups that you'll work with?
We don't draw them.
Okay.
So it's and when it comes to stuff like plastics, like we just handed so one of the areas we focus on is actually like climate action priorities for the state of California. We have some grant funding in place. We just handed out 6 $50,000 proof of concept grants specifically for commercialization to faculty across those like tech faculty across the board. So that included that, like, there one of which is a PVC upcycling, right? Another one, so that is plastics, right? We have another one that's fog water harvesting. We have another one that's electricity generation from waste microbial waste. Like there was so we have a range of technologies on that end. We also help non-tech companies within our ecosystem as well. So if we have somebody that's coming out of humanities that says, "Hey, I have the social impact platform I'm trying to develop. Can you help me out with that?" The answer is yes. In the way, one of the things we're working towards, and we'll hopefully eventually get there, is that just supporting technology that's easy. But putting mechanisms in place so that you can actually have humanities with engineering, or like cross streams, or let's see, chemistry with environmental biology. What ends up happening is you actually, when you start crossing streams like that, that's where actually true innovation starts popping out of. So we're trying to slowly but surely put mechanisms in place where we can support and encourage those types of interactions on campus too, to be able to help spur innovation.
I see. Yeah. BB, do you want to ask any question? I know you have like Wi-Fi issue.
Yeah, well, I let both of you guys know. I don't know what I missed because I got in late and had spotty Wi-Fi, so I don't want to ask questions and then them just be repeated. So I can just listen for this round, and you guys ask questions.
So now that you're recording, and I'm kind of curious, you've had me talk a lot about the ecosystem we're establishing. So my like I was under the impression you were more you had a technology yourself that you were developing. So my question, it seems like you might not. And especially since you have the school of management as your logo there. So I'm just kind of curious, what is the intent of this call?
Yeah, so we are all UC students taking this class, Santa Cruz class from all across UC. For me, I'm from UC San Diego, and BB is also from UC San Diego. Grace is from UC Santa Barbara. We are taking this class under Professor Ann's. Hiking for Ocean is trying to find a solution to reduce plastic waste and any alternative waste going to the water source. So we have this ideas like, after interview with industry experts and also business, and we kind of realize there is a missing piece for them, to connect the research to investors and also to business, helping them to bridge the gap of TRL. So that's why we kind of realize okay, we don't have much experience in chemistry or biology, but we could do something with this business. We could provide information to those researchers. And we could provide, the information for those research to investors. Could bring those people into the eye of the investor to help them, to get the information they wanted, to help them, upscale their product to the next stage. That's something we're doing for this class.
And we're because sorry, I was just wanted to add on that like the reason we want to talk to you is because we know that there's all these great accelerators happening at universities. So instead of this competition thing, we want to be more of a collaborator and see, where, like, you are a pre-accelerator, like where can we help to maybe, like, we all want to bring these technologies, right, like into the world, and can we kind of like help each other? Is there like maybe a TRL at the next stage that you guys like only go until like that beginning stage? Can we maybe like, work with organizations like you to kind of bounce them over to the next accelerator program or something like that, so that we can like work together to get it on the market?
The answer is always a yes. We're very open to any type of support, collaboration, networking. In the case of what you're talking about right now, like I have we have a demo day where we actually have somebody looking to do something kind of similar to you that within the demo day, which is awesome, because it means
it might be us.
Ben, is it the demo day on the 29th?
Yeah, then yes.
We're in the Launchpad finalists.
Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, that makes me feel better. And yes, I am a judge.
Oh, you are? Oh my god.
Hey, we'll see you in like 2 weeks.
Great, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Just pretend you haven't heard about our idea yet.
No, I mean, I've already looked into all of them, so you're fine.
Okay.
Another group for you to look into that just got established. They just set up shop. They're called 90 out of San Francisco. So they are they're basically a WeWorks for climate action initiative. So and they were actually talking about almost exactly the same kind of structure that you're talking about, except a much broader for sustainability purposes. So it might be of interest for you to reach out to look into that too. Their spinoff from Tech Futures, which is an investment group, which is huge, which is a very well respected one in the Bay Area. So just to give you an idea. So your idea here. Oh, by the way, another thing you should be looking into is going to be your competitive landscape. So who else is doing something similar? And then where is your idea or technology or service? How is it different, or how do you differentiate your tech from other people, what other people are doing?
I see.
And here's and because it's important, because why do people, why is the Android different than Apple? Why do you have people using either one of those, right? So it's just, and what are the features and services that people appreciate about the two of them? Why do we only have two? So it's two OSs like that. So it's one of those things where, how do you stand out so that people will say, yes, I want to cut you a check. And the other thing is, it's also okay to fail in these early stages. You will learn so much by just doing what you're doing right now. And then what you do is you go, oh, this is what a true pain point is, and then this is how I address it, and these are the stepping stones I need to be able to execute on it the second time around. So don't, it's okay. It's okay to fail as long as you do it in a way where you're not taking a whole bunch of people's money and lying to them and then having it implode afterwards. And as long as you are sincere about it and you have all that kind of stuff, you'll be okay.
So I guess then, kind of bouncing off of that, right, we're trying to figure out, we have this idea, we want to make it a reality. What are kind of those realistic next steps for that? So we want to we're creating that website to we have some ideas of the services we want to provide, but what are the steps to make that a reality? Do you have some kind of tips for us to reach out to invest, right? I know that it's hard for you because you might be a judge. I can't say.
I'm not telling you how to design your pitch deck. How do you make? So in reality, the answer is I would have to sit down and do a workshop with you guys, and I'm more than happy to do that. All right, but it's part of that workshop is identifying what products and services. Okay, you start off by identifying what the pain point is. You convert that into what the unmet need is. You do a market analysis. All right, and then from that market, so you understand what your market is, market segments, who would actually pay for this. Okay. So whatever service or product that you have, this is before you even put a website out there. Otherwise, you're just putting something up for the sake of putting something up. Okay, identify at that point in time, you're able to say, this is my product, this is my product market fit. So those are keywords. And then at that point in time, you go, all right, now we're going to start building. You go out and you do customer validation. So you go talk to people that would potentially use and pay for that potential service or product. So, and your questions are, what do you need? How can I solve that problem for you? And how much are you willing to pay for that? What is that worth to you? And it's for engineers, those are horrible conversations to have. And it really is. But and then what you end up doing is and then at that point in time, then you start building. You build the product based off of the user requirements and the market requirements. And so that is the process that I would recommend to be able to move forward. So, and it comes down to interviews. It comes down to legwork. It's about getting in the car and having conversations with people. Exactly what you're doing right here, right now.
Yeah, we've had a lot because we're part of the Hacking for Oceans team or class. So we've done a lot of interviews with people, both for our program, of course, or for our idea. We've talked to like researchers and like businesses and startups in the plastic realm, and so we've done a lot of this, but I don't think we've actually had the how much are you willing to pay, because that's always a next step kind of question.
Yeah.
We have kind of seen what people want out in the space and created our business around that.
That's great. So there's how much are people willing to pay, and then what does it take for within your organization to cut a check? So, and the reason why I bring that up is that I was an industry expert for an NIH I-Corp program. So, National Institute for Health, they came up with this concept. I call it rats with backpacks. So we are the evil aliens. I don't know if you know that. So one of the things that we do for our animal models, well, I can happily say I'm not the person that does this, is that we'll actually remove the skull cap of a mouse or a rat model, is hook up something called a laser Doppler, and then monitor brain oxygenation levels of that mouse or rat model while we're inducing a stroke into that mouse or rat model, so that we can test out stroke medication. Awesome, right? Yeah,
so cool.
We are. I'm not kidding. This is it. So,
oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Is that what engineers do? Oh my God.
That's actually what biomedical engineers, some researchers and biomedical engineers do. But this is the research that goes into coming up with pharmaceutical, like medicine, to be able to treat strokes. And so one of the things that was brought up was that how invasive that the laser Doppler portion of it was. We're removing the skull cap and all that, and that it could actually impact the quality of the data coming out of the studies. Ethically, I actually personally don't approve of any of this. It makes me cringe. But as a engineer, I love the fact that we're like, I can make life a little bit better for an animal, even though we're, in theory, still going to induce stroke to it. But at least we don't have to scalp it first. So the rats, the reason why I call it rats with backpacks is they actually have this little helmet they put on the mice and rat models with something called NIRS, near infrared spectroscopy, and hooked up to a Bluetooth sensor, and so they can monitor brain oxygenation levels without having to scalp the mouse or the small animal model. So the reason why I bring all this up is that so we're going through all this. It's a really small market, and why it's like, I think it was like an $80 million market. So the best way to look at market sizes, by the way, is if you'll hear something called a TAM SAM SOM, so total addressable market and serviceable addressable market. So TAM is the big pie in the sky. If you got every customer in the world, how much could you bring in? So if you think, the way I like to think about it is, if you're able to get 1% of those customers at year 5, which is a much more realistic number, what would your revenue be at that point in time? So if you have a $200 million annual, TAM, and that means that at year 5 with 1%, that means your company was generating $2 million of revenue. If you have a $2 billion TAM, that means you're bringing in 20 million annual of revenue annually, right? So that helps determine what kind of investor can invest into your company as well. So venture capitalist is more likely to put into a $2 billion TAM type company versus a $200 million TAM or below, right? I'm just kind of throwing that out. You would want to bring on 1 or 2 angel investors for any sort of TAM that's under 200, like probably under 300 million, honestly. But that's kind of the way that you look at it. So one of the things we were looking at as we were going through this program is that we're like, all right, well, what other type of animal models could this be used for? And one of the things that was brought up was large animal veterinary medicine, and they're like, oh yeah, you can look at the health of like cows and livestock. And they're like, well, like
don't they do like practice like surgery stuff on like pigs? I've heard.
Oh yeah, in pigs. Well, but here's the thing. Let's say now take a step back. What about domestic animals? Think about it. Who's going to pay for it? So we start looking into it even more. It turns out that when it comes down to veterinary medicine, every time I get my dog's teeth cleaned, they put them under. So now you have a non-invasive way of monitoring cat and dog models in veterinary medicine that's non-invasive to ensure the health of your dog while they're under anesthesia. That just doubled the market. Now, the other thing you look at is you go, all right, look at your distribution pathways. In the case of the researchers, you would have to go university to university to university, looking at it to try and sell your new system to each researcher independently. And each of those researchers, 99% of the time, well, no, I'll say 70% of the time, have to write a grant to be able to get those funds in place. So that means it's easily a 6 month to 1 year process to be able to get one customer to actually cut a check. In the case of veterinary medicine, there's actually 4 distributors of veterinary capital equipment throughout the whole country. So as long as you can partner up with one of those, you're in a better place. Now you have somebody that's going to distribute those to every veterinary hospital through the country. And it's a much easier pathway. Once you're able to prove it out, it's a much easier pathway. So not only did they double from an $80 million market to now a $160 million market, but they also identified the distribution pathways of saying, hey, do I want to go knocking door to door to door to every researcher in the country, in the world, or do I want to go talk to somebody else that will actually sell this on my behalf, or help me sell this on my behalf? So. And by the way, it could also be a double-edged sword, right? So if you can't if you don't have a good relationship with any of those 4 distributors, at the end of the day, you're actually pigeonholed into you having to go door to door to door to all the veterinary hospitals. So it's one of the things you have to do. It's also a risk too. So it can go both ways. So that's where all that kind of ties in together. This is all the research it takes. It takes years to figure all this type of stuff out. But by doing this type of research, it also helped them to develop their software and their headpieces. So that now they're actually developing the headpieces for mouse and dog models too, rather than just small animal models, and they're making sure that the system that they're developing can be used for research and for veterinary medicine. So now they've identified their user requirements, which has refined how they do their product development.
I see. That's I always learn something new every single day.
Trying to figure out like how, because that obviously makes me think about our model and like how can we like expand that, and that's just something, because it's a service. It again takes longer to get kind of like data flow and kind of results back from that in order to show investors to. So I guess how long with your like pre-accelerator did it take? But I guess you guys, I'm not quite sure if I missed this in the beginning. You guys don't really work directly with investors, right? Where do you get your funding to support these startups coming through your?
Oh no, we're losing you. So we actually, the funding that we end up handing out, is limited. It's a combination of I don't know if you can hear me. You're talking on my side. And so the funding that we hand out to is limited in scope and resources, period. And it is usually grant dependent too. One of the things we do try and get some funds from the university to foster these types of efforts. But what's more important is for us to put training programs in place so that you guys know how to go out and do this. So, and networking is cheap. So I actually do have a laundry list of venture capitalists and investors that invest in different segments that I can make the introductions to. I do have, I do provide, we have multiple Lean Launchpad and iCore programs that we can get our students and faculty members involved in. So you can do that customer validation. I'm establishing right now, which is a little late in the game, but I just came on board. But we're establishing an SBIR STTR training program to help you get non-dilutive funding in place. I'm going to put, I have training curriculums that I can do for how to develop an operating model or a pro forma versus as well as pitch decks and all that kind of stuff. And so I have the goal is to put structures in place that you can adapt to depending on what your technology or your business or your service is. So the goal is, at the end of the day, you come to me and you say, hey, Ben, I need help with this. And my goal is to point you in the right direction.
I see.
So
you
act as a almost an advisor, kind of like overlooking the project and kind of like just like pointing fingers to where to go. So you're not actually you can like help people, like connect them to a potential investor, but you are not doing a lot of the legwork yourself.
Correct. And it's because I mean, right now I've been at the university for 5 months. My pipeline is I already have like 50 technologies in my pipeline that I'm trying to give support to at this point in time. And there's also the people that are proactively trying asking me for help versus the people that are, you know, they're not doing that. And like, I'm not going to give them my time if, you know, I'm not going to beg them to come talk to me, but I am a service. And the whole point of it is to be able to provide support. And if I don't have money to be able to hand out, I can point you in the direction of people that can help you out with all of that.
I see.
Got it. And are those connections you had previously to starting at Santa Cruz?
All of the above. So
Okay.
like I'm actually I moved here from New Orleans via Philadelphia. Long story, but so like I've seen the ecosystems in Houston, New Orleans, and Philadelphia and so I'm, you know, I just got off a call to establish a UC wide to try and figure out how to establish a UC wide mentor network.
Mm-hmm.
So like yeah, we're trying to implement intelligence structures for everybody.
I see.
And then what is exactly, I must have missed this too, maybe I'm sorry if I repeat questions. How is this then equity based or is this equity free? How do you like?
I asked the question though.
Okay.
You can look at it now.
Yeah. I recorded it. I can share with you that.
It's recorded. I'll look it back. I'll watch it.
Yeah.
But one of the things we are actually looking to do downstream, and hopefully maybe, is actually figure out a way of establishing our own university fund to be able to invest in our own company spinning out. And that would be, but that's 100%. If we're able to get that up and running, that would be 100% optional for the startup company. So it's there's no cost. There would not be a cost to that. It's hey, look, we want to see the success of our students and our early stage companies. So the goal is to be able to provide support structures that are, if we do something like that, it would be equivalent to what's already out on them, like what investors and investment groups are already doing. So even when it comes to like licensing intellectual property from our tech transfer office to our startups, we know that you won't get it acquired if that's a horrible licensing deal. So, you know, X percent of 0 is 0, right? So yeah, that's how that works.
I see. I think that's all the question we have for now. Like we really appreciate you taking the time. Like we understand that you're on a very busy schedule, so we don't want to hold you here any longer. So we pretty appreciate it, and I think we're gonna schedule a workshop maybe like next week just to do more.
Oh, now maybe after.
Are you? Because you're the judge. Maybe I'm like, are you allowed to like?
No, I don't think he's allowed to.
Yeah. Okay.
We can schedule a workshop after the competition.
Of course, yeah. After that, yeah. No.
How's that one? I'm more than happy to work with you after the competition.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Yeah. Appreciate that.
Not all right, guys.
I like the effort though, Jason.
Yeah, like we just try to win.
I don't think we're allowed to get it.
Nice try. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for all your time.
Definitely my pleasure. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you.
Right. See you the 29th.
No, I cannot talk. I gotta use the restroom. I gotta go take a fast shit like right now.
Okay. Why don't we? I also have to run because I'm meeting my lab at 11. So
okay.
just talk to me after.
Cool,
after
cool,
3. Okay.
Cool.